Right.
Let's go do some Vikings over-unders, shall we?
Sure.
I've got 5 of them here. Hopefully they lead to some lively debates. Would you rather sign Anthony Harris
Mm-hmm.
to an extension
Mm-hmm.
or sign an above-average left guard and lose Harris?
You know what? This is actually, this could bring about a debate, but it's an easy answer for me. And we've been talking about this, Sam, on Ventline for a couple of weeks now, just as far as the Anthony Harris conundrum. I would sign the above average left guard off the market in a second. I do not think that it is a realistic ask for Zim to go to Spielman and company and tell them, I want both safeties. Now, I'll give him one of them. I'll give him, you can have 30-year-old Harrison Smith, who you love and who is a great player. He might be a little bit declining, but he's still a great player, right?
Yeah.
And Anthony Harris, who you have developed, love him too. Another smart kid, 28. So he's not super young, but he's not as old as Harrison Smith. But you only get one. So to me, the would I rather is very simple. It's going to be the offensive lineman who can block interior pressure.
I agree with you. I think it'd be painful to lose Harris just because he's entering his prime. Not a lot of mileage there. You raised him from a UDFA to what he is now, which is arguably one of the best safeties in football. But I think, too, when you look at the guard market, you've got good guards out there. Brandon Sheriff knows Cousins. He's got that Cousins connection. Vikings love sort of those colloquial connections. Joe Thuney might be the best guard in the market from the Patriots system. Same as Josh Klein was, and Klein had a pretty good year. Graham Glasgow from Detroit. Vikings are very familiar with him. He had a pretty nice season. I look at Anthony Harris, what he's done the last 2 years. He's done great things. But did it change the defense? I don't know if it did. I don't know if it certainly is good to have two safeties that secure on the back end, but they were pretty good with Andrew Sendejo back there too, right? And I think you'd rather invest in the defensive line and the cornerback positions. I just think safety is probably the third or fourth most important area on the defense, whereas interior pressure on Cousins is one of the biggest problems this team faces.
And I can't pay both guys. I just can't do it. I can't be disintegrating like I am, Sam, at the corners, right? My corners are, I don't know who at this point.
Right.
Because I'm assuming Rhodes gets cut. I'm assuming Waynes gets paid elsewhere. I don't pay him. Alexander, I'm assuming might want to leave. Okay.
Yeah.
So I can't in good conscience say, all right, my corners are disintegrating around me, basically. My interior line desperately needs help in at least both guard spots if possible. And I'm going to have two top paid safeties. And safeties, I want one really good one. So don't get me wrong. I'm not dismissing the importance. But part of my problem that I can't judge now, but I fear is happening here, is I think the Vikings, from the coaching staff to Spielman as well, misjudge and misappropriate cash positionally. Like Dalvin Cook. Like you can't sign Dalvin Cook to a huge contract.
No, and they might fall into that trap. Defensive tackle, too. I mean, nose tackle. If you look at the way a lot of teams structure it, they just get a really big guy and they pay him $2 million. And Linval, when he signed that second contract, that put him in probably to the overpaid category. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Follow-up question. So if you're picking safeties, who do you rather have for the next 5 years? Harrison or Harris?
Okay, I'm going to say something very unpopular based on age. Here's the thing. I go Belichickian every time, which is Harrison Smith, you are a Hall of Famer. And I love you as a player. And you've done me right at every turn. And you are an unbelievable asset. And I want you to take all of that. And if you need another coach to call me, I will give you the greatest character reference of all time. But I'm cutting you before you decline. I'm keeping Harris. I'm keeping Harris, and there's a 2-year age gap there, which in football is akin to what? 5 years? It's dog years, right?
Dog years for sure.
Okay. So, but what is the Belichick? The Belichick code is, I think, it's I'm cutting you right before you decline. In Belichick's world, Xavier Rhodes almost certainly is cut right after 2018, right?
Yep.
So my choice right now is one of those two. I'm cutting the older player. It's tough. I don't like it, but I have to. And it also goes along the Patriots theme of, and the Vikings a year ago, Sam did not do this. when Anthony Barr walks out of my building to go and see the Jets, I tell him, you're never coming back.
I think
once you leave me, that money is going elsewhere.
And I think I agree with you for the most part. The only thing that gives me pause is that Harrison Smith, I think, has a different skill set than Harris, and that Harris is more of a reactionary player when the ball is in the air, when the play is happening. Harrison Smith is an improviser before the play happens, and he's a threat to blitz. Harris is not really. So there are different things they're doing pre-snap. I think Harris is phenomenal when the play is going on. He just has this sixth sense.
He's really smart.
That's how he picks off Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. He just knows where the ball is going to go. But I still think you're right. I think you take 5 more years.
Do you think I'm right? Because I'm not positive. I'm just going with what I really believe that loyalty has gotten the Vikings in a pickle right now.
Well, I told Sage,
so I'm done with that.
I told Sage in the previous segment that I'm nervous that they're going to be too loyal again this offseason and work their hardest to restructure, Linval and Xavier, when it'd be better just to have a clean cut and move forward.
You can't do that, can you? Xavier has to be gone.
Xavier,
right?
I think he has to be gone.
Linval, I think I can stomach a restructure. Griffin, you have to allow to walk. His contract voided. You have to let him.
$14 million.
Unless he wants to come back for nothing, which he won't. Griffin has to be allowed to walk, and Rhodes has to be cut. Linval, I would personally cut, but if you pick one of those guys to restructure, and I got him way down, now I'm talking big pay cut. Joseph, I'd talk to about that.
And I think Joseph plays a position where you can probably make up the difference in aggregate. I think if you get a rotation going on the interior and then get a really good 3-tech next to your nose tackle.
Can you find that guy?
A big Danny Shelton, maybe.
Yeah.
Armin Watts.
They definitely missed that guy this year, right? The interior of the Vikings line was not bad, but I didn't feel like it made a difference.
How telling is it that they had defensive ends playing on the inside on passing downs?
Well, and I actually like that as part of the league now. I think it's smart, but you just saw the best teams, and the best teams now have athletic guys inside who get pressure. When I started to cover this league in 2003, the right end was a threat. He was your pass rush specialist. The left end was called the base end. And he was basically there to help stop the run.
Right.
And the interior guys, I loved them, but they were fat guys. And okay, they might be athletic to a certain degree, but you never expected consistent pressure. Now the best teams basically have 4 guys who can all move. It's a different world.
No, the game's getting faster, more athletic, and the Vikings, I think, were ahead of the curve there for sure. I looked, though, at interior pressure just from true defensive tackles. Last year, I think they had 33 pressures from Joseph, Stephen, Jaleel Johnson, etc. Year before, with Sheldon in the mix, a younger Joseph, and maybe a healthier one, I don't know for sure. He's been banged up the last 2 years. 96 interior pressures, almost 3 times the number in 2018. And I think Sheldon Richardson made a huge difference.
Agreed.
We spent a long time on the safety question. I'm going to skip around here. Would you rather see major improvement from Garrett Bradbury or Mike Hughes in 2020?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
I'll answer it first.
Yeah, go
right.
ahead.
My initial reaction was Bradbury, right? Because we've talked about how interior pressure was killing Kirk Cousins. He's not mobile enough to get outside. But then my second thought is, okay, he's got a guard on either side of him, got a fullback behind him in many cases. Mike Hughes is all alone, right? I mean, and we've seen how damaging a bad corner can be with Xavier Rhodes last year.
And we're assuming he's going to start at an outside corner with this question, correct?
Yeah, let's assume
he
that.
Has to.
Because you don't know if they're getting any of the 3 corners back from last year. Let's assume Mike Hughes is going to have to be elevated. And I think we also have to take for granted that his neck is okay because he had a broken vertebrae, which Mike Zimmer assured will heal, quote unquote. But I think when you've got a cornerback on an island, and we saw that Hughes could be susceptible this past year, I think I want Hughes to develop more and then just hope that Bradbury's limitations can be masked by your guard play and your
Is Garrett
protectors.
not being thrown back into Cousins? Because that concerned me at times when guys would pick him up and toss him like a rag doll. But I got to think you're right, and especially in the scenario under which we're talking, that Hughes is going to have to start at an outside corner. Let's say one of those safeties is gone. Secondary-wise, if he doesn't take a step up and play really well, you're in huge trouble. Now, I want to see Bradbury improve, but you're right. If you improve your guards enough around him, that could give him an infrastructure where it's not going to crack down. So, yeah, I mean, they're 2 first-round picks. Hughes, I'm just flat out now concerned about his health, too.
Yeah.
Because we've got the knee in year 1. Now, as you just said, a vertebrae, which is nothing to scoff at or joke about. That's very scary. So, yeah, I hate that question because it's so double-edged there, but I would take Hughes as well, because if Hughes comes out opening day next year and starts getting beat, you are in a world of potential trouble.
Bradbury had the same issue Elflein had as a rookie. He was too weak against strong defensive tackle play, and he had some very low moments. There were 2 or 3 games, right, where his PFF grade was 0 or close to 0.
Yep.
If you eliminate the low moments, he's much closer to the middle if you just filter those out and look at the stats.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping that he puts on weight, sort of like Brian O'Neill did in his first full off season as a pro, and then comes back stronger. But I think you need the technique of Hughes to improve. You need Hughes to be that shutdown guy. You need him to be better than Xavier was for sure last year. It's an absolute necessity. Would you rather have Xavier Rhodes as a starting corner next year or Shamar Stephen as your starting 3 technique?
Shamar Stephen. I think Rhodes is done. I just think it's done. And I don't think there's any. Shamar Stephen, I think, probably is who he is at this point. And I don't think he's a train wreck. I don't think he's great, but he's not a train wreck. But Rhodes stayed 1 year way too long, and this was awful. And I can't watch that. It's, and I feel compassion for him because he was so great at one time.
Mm-hmm.
He was a top 5 corner in this league. He had developed himself into a all-pro, Pro Bowl dominant player. 2017 was incredible, but that's not close. If I'm the Vikings, I can't bring Rhodes back. I can't watch that. And I don't think he's going to go to a team and bounce back. I don't think that there's a system now that's going to magically solve his problems. I think he is an old, 29?
29.
Okay. I think the wear and the tear and all of those things have taken their toll.
Rhodes was a liability. Stephen was more of a net neutral. I think this is a good opportunity to introduce. I want to introduce a new segment. It's called Xavier Rhodes Pro Bowl Moments. Pro Bowler Xavier Rhodes. This is in honor of yesterday's Morning Judd. Jonathan, do we have that? Xavier Rhodes Pro Bowl Moments, number 1.
3rd down and 5. Wilson's going to go deep, wide open, and into the hands of David Moore. Take a bow after a 60-yard touchdown.
That's what 29 Xavier Rhodes. He looks as if he's looking for help. He's looking back, looking at the quarterback, and allows Moore just to run right by him.
Xavier Rhodes Pro Bowl Moments in honor of the Pro Bowler Xavier Rhodes, one of 8 Vikings in the game. We'll have another one of those next segment.
I still can't. I talked about it extensively yesterday, but I still can't get past that one.
Yeah. Well, we can move past
Kirk Cousins, fine, right? Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
Statistically, heck of a year, Kirk. Xavier Rhodes.
One of these things is not like the other in that list of 5 guys yesterday.
Yes, sir.
All right. Would you rather trade your next 2 first-round picks and get Tua Tagovailoa, but you miss the playoffs next year, but you've got Tua? Or keep Cousins in the final year of his deal, play out the string, you don't add another quarterback, and you win at least 1 playoff game. Maybe more, but at least 1.
Oh, I want door A in a heartbeat. I will miss the playoffs. I get to develop my quarterback. I get to move on. Because door B, by the way, is conceivable. But it's where this team has been for how long?
It's purgatory.
It's purgatory, and you have to find, at some point with where this league is trending, you have to find that quarterback. And if I can trade 2 first-round picks, and assuming the medicals on Tua's hip come back just fine, And now I've got my quarterback of the future, who, by the way, can redshirt for me in 2020 because Kirk's going to play.
That's why I like that plan.
And I'm fine with it. And I finally, and oh, by the way, he redshirts for me in 2020. Then he starts for me in 2021. And because I got him in the first round, I still have 4 years left. 3 of them are dirt cheap because the first 4 years are dirt cheap, and year 5 is not necessarily cheap, but that option is nowhere near what I have to pay a veteran quarterback. If you give me that scenario, I will take it in a heartbeat.
And in that scenario, you have a plan in place. Whereas if you play out the string with Kirk and you don't know what the future holds, which, as you mentioned, is entirely conceivable, then you're in a 2018 situation all over again where, okay, our quarterback's a free agent. There's not going to be another Kirk Cousins waiting for them to sign. I mean, that's just not going to happen.
That's absolutely correct.
They wouldn't have the money to rescue themselves from that situation. So to have a plan for the future and have the potential to maximize your ceiling.